What's up, everybody? Well, today we're going to do a little remake video. I'm going to go and redo Watchdogs Legion at 1080p on the laptop itself, seeing as though the first time I basically just stayed in a cave the whole time, and that wasn't very good way to show how the game runs. All the rest of the videos were outside, so I beat the game already, so might as well just go in real quick and get some footage. Be super easy. Anyway though, let's go do just that and go look at some settings. Well, starting off our redo of the 1080p Watchdogs here, just look at this screen right here. The display screen. We're at 1080p, 300 Hz, no VSync or FPS limit, normal field of view. So let's go look at the low setting. Alright, low settings here. We're just going to do DirectX 12 this time. We're not going to do both 11 and 12. We're just going to stick with DirectX 12 this time. There we go. We'll just cruise through all of these, and then we'll do a very quick benchmark, then we'll do gameplay. That's how we'll go through this video. And we'll do ray tracing at the very end. Alright, low benchmarks all finished. We got a max of 126, average of 93, a minimum of 55, 1% low of 69, 0.1% low of 63. Here is our system load, our operating system, and CPU and GPU. And then there's our frame times. So now, let's jump into the actual game. Well, here we are with some low gameplay. And we're really not getting a lot of GPU utilization, which means the megahertz is staying rather low. Not really like that. I wish games would just like, at least it doesn't, even if it doesn't use the maximum utilization, at least let it run at max clock so you can get your maximum FPS. Because I still feel like if it was higher clocked, it would still get more than 70 FPS. Not that 70 FPS for a big overall game like this is bad, but again, much like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'd just expect a little more out of it, that's all. Still though, perfectly playable. Though we're only on low, I'm kind of worried about what it's going to be like once we get to the higher settings, especially with ray tracing, but I guess time will tell. We'll get to that stage eventually. Oh, get out of my way, you. Alright though, let's move on. Well, alright, starting off Watchdogs Legion 1080p low gameplay when we're actually out in the city, not stuck in a cave this time. And I don't remember being this low GPU clocks, but we're not getting that much FPS and we have really low GPU clocks. I don't know if that's just the way low works on this game or if something's going on with the laptop here, because this is what happened in the last game. Hopefully nothing's wrong with this thing. I think that's just the way it's supposed to be working, but it's really weird. It's probably just low. I'm probably just freaking out or nothing. I just don't want my laptop to be broken, you know? I make videos about it for you guys. And then if it's broken, I can't do that anymore. But I don't think that's the case. I'm probably just being silly. It's probably just because I'm on low and it's just having trouble with utilization, just like it does in many other games I try at 1080p on low. Oh, ran into a taxi. F you, taxi. Anyway, though, I think it's time for us to move on. Now for some medium settings. So let's just scroll through these real quick, and if I do go through these too quick and you want to read them or look at the picture closer, just feel free to pause. I try not to go, like, insanely fast through these. And alright, we'll do ray tracing at the very end. Medium benchmarks all done. We got 123 max. Average of 90. Minimum of 58. 1% low of 67. 1% 0.1 at 62. System load. Operating system and CPU. GPU, driver, VRAM. Frame times right here. So now, let's hop into the game. Alright, starting off medium gameplay. I just had to stop for a second. As soon as I got done doing the recording, like literally the second I got done, I heard the doorbell ring. I mean, it might have rang a couple of times and I just didn't hear it, but I guess the gutter guys are here to clean, so hopefully it won't be too noisy. They're going to be doing the front of the house and I'm recording all the way in my game room, so it shouldn't affect too much, but if you hear weird shit going on in the background, it's probably just the gutter guys cleaning the gutters. Hopefully they don't need any anything right in the middle of me recording, but I don't think so. I feel like they're just gonna do their job, and hopefully I can get done with this before they get done and I have to pay them. So we will see. If not, I'll just have to stop recording and go out and do whatever needs to be done and redo the recording. It's no big deal. It's not like these are 20 hours of recording or anything. It's like a minute. If I have to redo a minute, you know, it's annoying, but not the end of the world, you know? Anyway, though, it's time for us to move on.
Oh, now we are on medium. Still not getting full GPU utilization, but I think that's just the way the game engine is. A lot of game engines just bottleneck the crap out of 1080p when you try to have lower or medium settings. I'm hoping that the GPU will start getting utilized and start clocking up a little once we start getting to the high, very high settings. But it's not like we're getting horrid FPS. I just figured if it would, like, clock up, we'd be getting more like 90 FPS now or something, or 95. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm not a developer. Maybe that's not how it works at all. Let's go up here. That thing. I also had to sit around and wait for a while, because when I first got back in the game, it was unfortunately night, and I was like, well, I'm not going to just do the whole video at night, because that's going to be just about as bad as it was when I was in a cave. We want a game like this to be daytime, so we can check out ray tracing and whatnot when we get to it. Because it's pretty much ray trace reflections only in this game. So, that's why there's so many puddles and reflective surfaces, so they can make the ray tracing look nice. Or at least nice-ish. Anyway, though, why don't we move on to the next graphic?
Alright, moving on to high graphics setting now. Let's just have a real quick look at the settings. And we'll do ray tracing at the very end of the video. High benchmarks all finished. Got 118 max, 84 average, 55 minimum, 1% low 62, with 0.1% 58. Here's our system load right here. Then our operating system, CPU, GPU, driver, VRAM, and RAM right there. And then here's all of our frame times. And now, let's move on. Alright, high gameplay time. So, let's just run around the city a little more now that we're out and about. It's daytime. Made sure it wasn't night.
Shopping, everything.
Huh, 2 buses run right after the other, huh? Alright, I guess they could do that. It's also getting pretty close to 420. Wonder if I can finish up these recordings before my alarm randomly goes off. Alright, we'll just cruise through these 2 cars. And alright, I think that's good enough. Why don't we move on?
Well, we bumped it up to high, and we're still not maxing out our GPU utilization or our megahertz on it. I can't really remember if it was doing that before. Oh well, still getting good FPS. Again, I feel like it would be getting more if it would just clock that GPU up a little. But maybe it's linked to the usage. If it's not like using max, why would it sit there and clock itself all the way up to max? It's probably trying to save battery and heat and all that shit. Besides, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know how to program stuff better. I'm an absolute idiot when it comes to programming and all that. I'm great at putting like hardware together and whatnot, as you've seen in all the videos I've made from upgrading this laptop and all my other computers, but yeah, software, not so great. Hell, I'm not even great with getting emulation working. That's why I haven't made any emulation video on the laptop yet. I'm trying to get my friend Pat to help, but he's very busy. Usually he's test driving cars and whatnot, and when he's not doing that, he's like off on a trip going someplace to like learn how to drive cars better and whatnot, or to just have hardcore like weather test cars, like going all the way to Death Valley or all the way up to like one of the coldest parts in America minus Alaska. I can't remember where the hell that was, but he said it got like -70 wind chill or something crazy like that. Anyway though, I think that's good enough. Why don't we move on to the next graphics set?
Right, moving right along to very high graphics preset now. Let's just look at them all real quick. Then we'll do a benchmark, and then we can move on to the actual gameplay. Alright, moving on. Okay. Very high benchmarks all done. This time we maxed out 118, averaged 83, a minimum of 47, 1% low of 60, and 0.1% low of 55. There's our system load right here, and our operating system and CPU right there with our GPU and GPU driver, VRAM and RAM, and frame times. So now let's jump into some gameplay. Alright, very high gameplay now. We'll just keep running around like we have been. Ooh, old Jaguar. I always thought those cars looked cool. Alright, let's pop down here and go towards some of these trees. I think there's like a little park or something down here. Oh, you can't vault over the road closed sign, huh? Alright. We'll just vault over that. Run in air for a second there and keep on running down the stairs, I guess.
Things were never easy for someone like me. Kids in school would
Alright. Let's just walk up here just a little teeny bit more, like maybe next to this telephone booth. Alright, that looks good. Why don't we stop right here and move on?
Well, now we bumped it up to very high. Still getting about the 70-ish utilization on GPU though, so we're still not clocking up, but still sitting around 70 to 80 FPS. Wonder if freaking turning ray tracing on will probably light a fire under this GPU or something. I mean, damn. I guess for certain games, 1080p is just, it sits there and twiddles its thumbs like, I don't know, this isn't even worth me trying very hard. I'm just not going to. At least that's sure what it seems like in a lot of games. At least in the ones that I play, like first-person shooters and it gets lots of FPS in, so that's all I really care about. Don't you honk at me. I still remember fighting a bunch of robots over at that frickin' Ferris wheel. Anyway though, why don't we move on?
Well, now we've got some ultra settings now. Not quite completely maxed, but these are the ultra preset. I'm still going to max the game out before moving to ray tracing after this, so don't worry. I about didn't do that, but then I looked and I was like, oh no, there's two settings I can mess with. And then of course ray tracing we will do at the very end. Well, now that ultra benchmark's all done, we maxed out at 110 FPS, average 78 FPS, a minimum of 46, 1% low of 56, and a 0.1% low of 51. Here's our system load right here, and our operating and system with our CPU right there, and our GPU and GPU driver, VRAM and RAM, and frame time. So now, let's move on. Alright, ultra gameplay, and it sounds like they've gotten to walking around on the front roof area a little bit. I can hear it a little bit, but I don't think it'll come through for you guys, but if you guys hear some banging and whatnot in the background, it's just some gutter guys doing their job. And the gutters need to cleaning, so can't just say, oh no, don't come, I'm making a YouTube video. That's fucking stupid. So you might have to deal with a little noise. But as I was saying, I think this microphone's noise cancellation is so good it won't even really catch them. Whoa, that guy just took a spill. Although it looked like something just like took out like everything down the city block, like all light poles and everything. What the hell happened here? Apparently there's no freedom and no future at this place, but thanks to me there is, because I beat the game already. Alright though, why don't we move on?
Well, now we are on Ultra, and as you can see it is pumping the megahertz up to like 2,000 something every once in a while, but we're still not getting a lot of utilization. But we are in the 80s now instead of the 70s. It seems to go when it goes into the 80s, it starts to clock up. And I wonder how it'll act at 1080p when we're outside and we turn on ray tracing. That'll be interesting. Will it still be able to hit over 60 all the time? Probably not. But we will find out very shortly. Go over here. I'm away, you. Alright, speaking of ray tracing, I think there's no more settings after Ultra. I think the only thing you can do is put like car lights up to 4 or something like that. I'm gonna go check. But I think we're probably moving on to ray tracing now.
Okay, now I have maxed the game completely out. Really, there's only 2 settings to max out. I maxed out the headlight shadows right here, to 4 cars from 2. And then, where was it? It was farther down here. It might have even been under ray tracing. Yeah, extra details, that's it. When we max extra details too. And of course, we'll do ray tracing at the very end. Right, max benchmark just got done. 107 max FPS, 73 average, 44 minimum, 1% low of 52, 0.1 of 48. Here's our system load right here. And then here's our operating system and whatnot there, and our GPU driver, VRAM and RAM, and frame times. So now let's go jump into the actual game. Well, here we are all completely maxed out. And it does drop under 60 from time to time, down to like 55 to 54, 51. So I probably wouldn't play like this, and I'd just stick with just normal Ultra settings, but we're doing all the settings we can. At least in DirectX 12. We're not doing DirectX 11 in this video. That'd just make it too damn long. Now, if somebody wants me to redo all of DirectX 11 as well, I can do that, but for now we're just going to stick with DirectX 12.
Hey,
Alright though, I think that's good enough. Let's move on.
Well, now we got the game completely maxed out. Well, besides ray tracing, we'll turn that on in a minute. And it's doing alright. We're staying over 60 all the time anyway. I have a feeling if we're this close to 60 already now, once we turn ray tracing on, we're going under 60 for sure. But by how much? That's the question.
Time for the big guns. And by guns, I mean hammer. Lady smash, you dirty girl. In pursuit.
Alright, we finally made it to ray tracing settings. So we're just going to show you this screen once because all we're changing is one setting after this. So it doesn't make much sense to constantly bring this screen up every time then, but we're going to do ray trace reflections with them on medium, and the rest of the game is completely maxed out with extra details and all that. So now, let's go run a benchmark. Alright, medium. RT medium benchmark's done. We maxed out at 57, averaged 46, got a minimum of 30, 1% load of 37, 0.1% 33, system load right there, operating system right here, GPU driver and CPU right there, there's a VRAM and frame times. So let's get into the game. So here's some ray tracing medium gameplay now. Running down an alley, so it's actually getting pretty decent FPS, but I bet you as soon as we get to the end of this alley, it's going to start plummeting. Because we're going to get out into the open. Well, it didn't plummet, but it went down to 50. That's still 8 frames lower than what it was. Those guys are rocking out. It's definitely some colorful language. And apparently that thing had a advertisement for Oil Masters, whatever the hell that is. Alright though, I think it's time for us to move on.
Well, now we got ray tracing on, and we're starting off on medium. And we're struggling to hit 60 already. We're like just sitting right at about 60, 58 to 59 here. But at times it drops way under, down to like 55, 54. Not even 52, 53, see? And while not horrible, remember this is only medium ray tracing, and this is only 1080p. So, as I always say, ray tracing is not this laptop's forte. But it's great at everything else. So, unless ray tracing is all you care about, I still love this laptop. And I mean, I even have 2 other desktop computers that are perfectly capable of doing ray tracing, and I almost never use it. Certain games I can, without it like making the FPS super terrible, but that's not a very long list of games. I can think of like Resident Evil Village was one where I could actually play and still get decent FPS with ray tracing on. I haven't gotten to try any of the new ones. I saw that like Resident Evil 7, which I haven't even played yet, got like a ray tracing update like a day or 2 ago, so that's pretty cool. Anyway though, let us move on to the next ray tracing set.
No point in showing the settings screen, so instead, jumping right into the benchmark, we maxed 53, averaged 43, minimum of 29, 1% low of 35, 0.1% 32. Here's our system load right there. And then their operating system and CPU, GPU and GPU driver, VRAM and RAM, and frame times. So now let's hop back into the game. Alright. RT high now. Let's get a little gameplay from that in. And yeah, we're definitely getting some pretty lower FPS now. We're under 50 a majority of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, and it looks like it's 420. I did not make it at least to 420. Hopefully that alarm wasn't too annoying. And there we go. 420 hit acquired. Alright, let's move on.
Well, now we got ourselves some high ray tracing gameplay here, and now we are quite a bit under 60. We're all the way under 50 most of the time. But that's what ray tracing will do. The higher up it goes, the worse frames you're going to get. I mean, that's the same on everything, even NVIDIA, but it's a lot worse on AMD still. I'm hoping their next 7000 series will be better at ray tracing. Because don't get me wrong, I'd like to use it, I just don't want to kill like 50 FPS. And on this doesn't have any upscaling that I know of. It's just DLSS. So on AMD, you're screwed. You don't get any help from DLSS like NVIDIA does. So with NVIDIA, this is one of the games I do have ray tracing on, because might as well. It was literally designed to make it look good. Looks a little flat without ray tracing, but it still looks good without it. Don't get me wrong. So on this particular thing, since it's not good at ray tracing, I'll just play this thing on Ultra and be good. But anyway, why don't we move on to the last ray tracing set?
Okay. RT Ultra's all done. Maxed out at 50. Average 39. Minimum of 21. 1% low of 30. 0% low 23. System load right here. Operating system and CPU right there. GPU and GPU driver there. With the VRAM and RAM. And then frame time. So, back to the game we go. Last up, we got some RT Ultra gameplay. And the game is now essentially also maxed out on top of that, so it's also max gameplay. So let's just get a little gameplay, even though we're not getting the most FPS anymore. It's still, let's get a little gameplay in. At least it's not getting like 20 or whatever. We've had games where ray tracing drops you down to like, 20 FPS even at 1080p. Cyberpunk comes to mind. At least Cyberpunk now has some FSR support, so that's nice. This game, not so much. At least not to my knowledge, unless I just missed it. But I don't remember seeing any FSR support in this game.
Whoops.
Alright though, let us move on.
Alright, ray tracing is now on Ultra, and the game is now completely maxed out. So, this is how it will look. We're finally hitting 99% utilization though on that GPU. It's working as hard as it possibly can. Because it's not good at the ray tracing, but it's like, I'm trying, man, I'm giving it all I got. It's okay, 6800M. You're still awesome at everything else. Especially when you hook it up to an external monitor. I'm hoping that the next year's version, if there is one this year, in 2022 sometime, they actually put a muck switch in this. If they did that, it would be freaking, like, literally perfect. That and ship everyone with fast RAM no matter what. That would also be nice. That way people don't have to waste money upgrading their RAM unless they want more of it. And there's even versions of these that come with 32 standard, so that's not even necessarily a thing you'd have to contend with. It looks like a little Mini Cooper. But we are in Britain, so that's not surprising. That's probably what it's supposed to be. But they probably didn't want to pay licensing, so they're like, nah, it looks like it, but it's not. Anyway, though, I'd say it's about time for us to end. And it did pretty good until we turned on ray tracing. But let's go wrap this video up.
Well, alright guys, that is a wrap for Watchdogs Legion. And now we've done all of the resolutions properly. Because like everybody was saying, that was kind of bad to just do everything in the cave. But I had no idea how far I had to go before it would actually let me out of the dang cave. It looked like I freaking went through there for like 10-15 minutes. But in reality, it was probably more like 10 minutes. It feels like you're playing a lot longer when you're making a video, you know? Because you gotta do the same thing over and over again when you're doing what I did in the cave anyway. So it starts molding together. Anyway though, I think it did great until we got into ray tracing, and that's just not what this laptop's about. It is fantastic at everything else, but it is not good at ray tracing. So if that's all you care about, get one of these same laptops, just get the one with the 3070 or 3070 Ti. No big deal. But anyway, I think that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I was glad that I went back and actually made it, because now everybody should be happy. But anyway, till the next video, peace out, guys.